In 2021, Elon Musk paid $0 in federal income tax. Not because he broke the law, because at a certain level, the rules aren't broken. They're simply not written for you. That's the world we're breaking down today. From the person who just crossed $1 billion for the first time, to the people whose wealth is so large, it stopped being a number and became a system. And before someone comments, yes, some of these people are technically centimillionaires at the entry point. Save it. We're here for how wealth actually functions at each level, not the Forbes taxonomy. Let's get into it. Level 1, $1 billion to $3 billion, the new billionaire. This is where the number first appears next to your name. You didn't inherit it. You built something, a company, a platform, a portfolio. And one day an investment bank sent you a valuation, and the number had a B in it. Net worth, $1 to $3 billion. Liquid cash on hand, probably $50 to $200 million. The rest is locked in equity, real estate, and assets that can't be sold on a Tuesday afternoon without moving markets or triggering clauses. Here's what most people don't understand about level 1 billionaires. They feel poor. Not poor, but constrained. Their wealth exists on paper. Their lifestyle is upper class, not ultra-wealthy. They fly private occasionally, not habitually. They have a nice house, not a compound. They have a financial advisor, not a family office. The problem at this level isn't money, it's liquidity. And liquidity is the difference between wealth and freedom. Who's here? The founder who took his company public 2 years ago. He's worth $2.1 billion on paper. His lockup period just ended. He sold $80 million in stock, paid $35 million in taxes, and put $45 million into a brokerage account. That $45 million is the most real money he has ever touched in his life. And it is nowhere near enough to live like a billionaire. Not yet. He's still answering emails, still flying commercial when it makes sense, still has a mortgage technically. He is a billionaire the way someone is in a relationship. The label is technically correct, but the infrastructure isn't there yet. Level 2, $3 billion to $10 billion. The establishment billionaire. This is where billionaire status stops feeling accidental and starts feeling structural. Net worth, $3 to $10 billion. A proper family office is established, a private firm, 5 to 15 employees, managing investments, legal entities, tax strategy, and personal logistics. The family office costs $3 to $10 million per year to run. It also saves multiples of that in taxes, deal access, and avoided mistakes. At this level, the private jet isn't a luxury. It's infrastructure, a G550 or a Global 6000, purchased outright or fractional, operated under a management company, available on 4 hours' notice, any destination, no check-in, no security line, no shared cabin with strangers. The house situation changes. Not one house. A primary residence, a ski property, a place in Europe, maybe an island or ranch, each property staffed year-round, regardless of whether the owner is present. Who's here? The second-generation media owner whose grandfather built the company, whose father doubled it, and who has spent the last decade diversifying away from the core business because she saw what happened to single-asset families. She doesn't appear on television. Her name appears on hospital wings and university buildings. She has a security detail she pretends not to have. She was offered a cabinet position once and declined because the disclosure requirements were inconvenient. At level 2, privacy becomes a profession. Level 3, $10 billion to $30 billion, the institutional billionaire. At this level, the person is no longer just wealthy. They are an economic actor. Their investment decisions move markets. Their capital allocations shape industries. When they shift portfolios, analysts write reports about it. The family office at this level operates like a mid-sized bank, 20 to 50 professionals, an investment team running a diversified portfolio across public equities, private equity, real estate, venture capital, hedge funds, and direct operating businesses. A legal team that exists solely to structure, protect, and optimize the wealth. A philanthropic arm that grants more money annually than the GDP of several sovereign nations. The lifestyle inflection point here is staff. Not just staff, institutional staff. An estate manager who runs the properties. A travel director who coordinates movement across time zones. A chief of staff who manages the owner's schedule, correspondence, and access. The principal doesn't manage logistics. The principal makes decisions. Everything else is handled. Who's here? The industrial billionaire who took his father's manufacturing company, sold the manufacturing, and reinvested the proceeds into real estate, media, and private equity over 30 years. His name is not famous. His portfolio is. He owns pieces of things you interact with every day, and you have no idea. He has given more than $2 billion to his foundation, which operates independently with its own staff and agenda. He is simultaneously one of the most powerful people in his city and completely invisible to the public. That invisibility is not accidental. It is engineered. Level 4, $30 billion to $100 billion. The sovereign billionaire. This is where individual wealth begins to exceed the economic output of small nations. GDP of Iceland, approximately $25 billion. GDP of Bolivia, approximately $40 billion. At level 4, a single individual controls more capital than entire sovereign economies. The infrastructure required to manage this wealth is not personal anymore. It is institutional. Multiple family offices, multiple legal structures across multiple jurisdictions. Teams of lawyers who specialize in international tax law, asset protection, and regulatory compliance across every major financial system on Earth. At this level, the individual does not own assets in their name. They own entities that own entities that own entities. The beneficial ownership chain, who actually controls what, can take investigators years to fully map. Sometimes it is never mapped at all. The political dimension becomes unavoidable. Governments return calls. Legislation gets reviewed with their interests in mind. Not because anyone is corrupt necessarily, because capital at this scale creates gravitational pull. Everyone orbits it. Who's here? You know their names. The ones who appear on the short list, always the same short list, of the wealthiest people on Earth. What you don't see is what's behind the name. The operating team that runs the wealth as a full-time enterprise. The security apparatus that protects it, the political relationships that surround it, the philanthropic institutions that extend its influence into civil society, academia, and policy. The wealth stopped being a number a long time ago. It became a system, and the system runs whether or not the person is paying attention. Level 5, $100 billion to $200 billion. The post-national billionaire. Fewer than 15 people on Earth have ever crossed this threshold. At $100 billion, wealth stops functioning as a resource and starts functioning as a force. The individual is no longer subject to normal economic pressures. They cannot spend it down. They cannot lose it through lifestyle. Short of catastrophic business collapse or targeted government seizure, the wealth is self-perpetuating. It generates returns faster than it can be meaningfully deployed. The implication of that is strange and rarely discussed. Freedom, as most people understand it, is the ability to do what you want. But at this level, freedom inverts. The constraints aren't financial, they're physical. There are only 24 hours in a day. There is only one of you. No amount of capital solves that. What changes at this level is scale of ambition. The projects these individuals fund are not businesses in the conventional sense. They are attempts to solve problems that governments have failed to solve. Space infrastructure, disease eradication, energy transition. Not because of altruism necessarily, but because everything else has already been bought. At $100 billion, the only interesting problems left are civilizational. Who's here? The founder who built a company so dominant in its category that the company and the category became synonymous. He didn't plan to accumulate this much. He just never stopped building, and the market never stopped rewarding him. His net worth fluctuates by $10 billion on a bad week, a $10 billion fluctuation. That is the GDP of a mid-sized country, moving with his stock price before lunch on a Wednesday. He is now more famous for what he does outside his company than inside it. That shift was not a choice. It was arithmetic. Level 6, $200 billion to $500 billion. The singular accumulation. This tier has had at most 2 or 3 occupants in all of recorded economic history. At this level, the conversation about wealth ends. What exists instead is something closer to permanent institutional power. The individual controls more capital than the Federal Reserve moves in some interventions. Their single largest holding is worth more than most Fortune 500 companies. The paradox here is visibility. The wealthiest people in history, John D. Rockefeller, adjusted for today, estimated at $400 to $700 billion, operated in near total obscurity by modern standards. Today's singular accumulators are global celebrities. Their statements move financial markets. Their tweets are parsed by analysts. Their moods are reported as news. That visibility is both their power and their exposure. It is the only thing at this level that cannot be fully controlled. The wealth itself generates approximately $20 to $50 billion per year in returns passively, without a single decision being made. The individual could stop working, stop building, stop appearing in any capacity, and the number would continue growing. The momentum of capital at this scale is essentially irreversible under normal conditions. There is no lifestyle analog. No property, no yacht, no aircraft, no experience that costs meaningfully relative to the balance. A $500 million yacht is a rounding error. A $200 million mansion is less than one day's returns. The concept of spending is not applicable. This is not wealth that is held. It is wealth that accumulates regardless of what is done with it. Level 7, $500 billion and beyond. Wealth is civilization. This level does not yet have a permanent resident, but it is closer than most people realize. At $500 billion, a number that has been approached and may be crossed within this decade, individual wealth begins to approach the scale at which a single private actor can fund infrastructure, military capability, or governance systems comparable to mid-sized nation-states. This is not hyperbole. It is arithmetic. The annual GDP of Portugal, approximately $250 billion. The annual GDP of New Zealand, approximately $250 billion. A single individual at this level controls capital equivalent to running an entire developed economy for 2 years. No regulatory framework currently exists to govern wealth at this scale. The legal structures, tax treaties, and oversight mechanisms that apply to even the largest corporations were not designed for a single individual controlling $500 billion. They were not designed for it because it had never happened before. What does this mean in practice? It means the individual at this level can fund sovereign-scale projects without a government, can build infrastructure without public capital, can operate communication networks, transportation systems, and space programs that a nation-state would require legislation and decades to approve. The Level 7 billionaire is not buying into a system. They are building a parallel one, not illegally, not conspiratorially, simply because the capital exists and the institutional will to constrain it doesn't. The question this raises is not economic. It is philosophical. At what point does private wealth become public power? At what point does accumulation become governance? No one has answered that yet, because we've never been here before. The billionaire as a concept started as a measure of financial success. The guy who built the right company at the right time and sold it for more than anyone expected. It became something different. At level 1, it's a number on a screen. At level 7, it's a parallel civilization in construction. And somewhere between the founder still answering his own emails and the man whose net worth moves before the market opens, the product stopped being wealth. Every other institution sells you access to a system. The Level 7 billionaire is building the next one. Whether you'll have a place in it is a question nobody's asking out loud yet. But someone's already thinking about the answer. If this was useful, subscribe. I break down how power actually works, not how the press release describes it. See you in the next one.